This week on Vice, the rise fishing our oceans to death.
Give me your paper, please.
Who's instructing us, he's former military, so this is all stuff that he learned while he was serving.
Everyone's just reeling like crazy to get more and more hooks in.
In recent years, record levels of overfishing have pushed many species of sea life to the brink of extinction. Now, one of the hardest hit has been the shark. In fact, less than 10 people a year are killed by sharks, and an estimated 100 million sharks are killed by humans. And a staggering 90% of all large predatory fish have now been completely wiped out. So we sent Isabel Young to the Mozambique Channel, one of the most vibrant and biodiverse bodies of water on Earth, to see what a world without sharks just might look like.
This speck of land is one of the last places still inhabited by the Vezi people, a nomadic fishing tribe who've been hunting sharks in these waters for generations.
All these Vezu people have travelled for days to get to this tiny little sandbank in the middle of the Indian Ocean. The problem is that the areas where they live are so overfished now that they're not able to make a living.
These waters used to be some of the most abundant fishing grounds in the world, and a perfect place to catch sharks. But in recent years, it's been harder and harder to find them.
These guys have been rowing and rowing for hours now. I can tell you this is not easy work. They set this shark net a couple of days ago. They're hoping to find just one shark to feed their whole family tonight.
As we pulled up the nets, one of the fishermen told us why they target sharks specifically.
Shark is more valuable because they're using the fins to sell, and because it's kind of make a lot of money. And also, you know, the body of the shark is meat. We need to eat something.
While the Vezi eat the entire shark, the overwhelming majority of sharks are caught purely for their fins, which are then used for making the Chinese delicacy, shark fin soup.
We're pulling in the last of 3 nets here. We haven't seen one fish, let alone a single shark, so yeah, that's it.
Now that it's so hard to find sharks, they're left to scramble for whatever's left, spearfishing small fish, drying octopus, and rationing what little food they have.
It seems kind of idyllic to me coming to visit you, but I imagine it's quite tough at times being out here. Have you seen a lot of industrial fishermen?
The people he's referring to are the 4,000 industrial fishing boats licensed to fish in the Indian Ocean at any given time, sweeping up everything within their reach. As the Vezi lose their livelihood, the ocean is losing one of its top predators. This creates devastating effects that ripple all the way down the ecosystem, which is why targeting sharks for their fins is illegal in Madagascar. Despite this huge volume of ships, in Madagascar we found that there was only one operating vessel to monitor 460,000 square miles of open water. We joined them for what turned out to be their first inspection in 6 months.
How often do you get to come out and actually patrol these seas?
Having chased a longliner for 2 days, we finally caught up with them, before realising that even basic communication was a struggle.
Speak.
This is the police Madagascar. We come to check your boat, okay? Okay. That is just one of hundreds and hundreds of industrial-scale ships roaming these Madagascar oceans, coming from all over the world, especially Europe and Asia. That is a hell of a lot of fish blood coming out.
These boats are built to stay out here for up to 6 months at a time, using massive freezers that allow them to do so, and crews that work in 18-hour shifts.
Tuna! How many hooks do you have? 3,000 hooks on one line. The scale of what's going on here is immense. Everyone's just reeling like crazy to get more and more hooks in. Each one of these lines has 3,000 hooks on them, and they're using 370 lines every single day.
That means that every day, just one of these boats can have over 1 million hooks in the water. It's a super effective way to catch mammoth amounts of fish, but it doesn't discriminate. These hooks catch everything. Much of their bycatch is sharks. They drag on the line for days, leaving most of them dead by the time they get on board.
They're telling me that they're going to throw them back over dead. I don't know if they'd be doing that if we weren't here or not. Why do you not keep the shark?
No.
Why?
But down below, we found a freezer full of these same sharks.
Open, please. How much is shark fin? Shark, yeah.
Shark, Mozambique, hopefully.
No Madagascar?
No Madagascar.
So, when these laws are followed, the sharks are chucked back into the water, dead. And if they're not followed, they can just say they caught them from somewhere else.
Give me your paper, please. Your paper. This is your catch on Mozambique. You catch the shark on Mozambique, no Madagascar. Mozambique. Thank you very much, Captain. Yes, thank you very much.
While the laws are designed to slow down shark finning in Madagascar, these fins are worth huge amounts of cash, so the practice is everywhere. It wasn't too hard to track down a seller. We posed as potential buyers and were taken to his warehouse.
We've managed to get the number of a shark fin dealer here in Antananarivo. Obviously, these shark fin dealers are not happy about being on camera, so we're having to wear hidden cameras and hidden microphones. OK， 好，谢谢。哇，
这个是最好的。
这是什么样的鲨鱼？
这个白鲨。
哇，这个好重啊！
包括黑的我也。
但是你还有多少？
几十公斤这里都有，几十公斤。如果全部上来呢，就差不多有1吨。那以前1个月有3吨。
越来越少。
越做越少。
鲨鱼越来越少。
越少。
He told us that selling 1 ton of fins a month brings in $200,000 in profits. The scary thing is that this is nothing compared to what's going on in the global market, where an estimated 100 million sharks are killed each year. We spoke to marine ecologist and overfishing expert, Dr. Boris Worm.
How worried should we be about our shark populations right now?
Sharks to me are like an indicator species. They're the first to go, they're the canary in the coal mine. When the sharks go, everything else starts to change. In 2006, we published a study that looked at global trends and catches of all seafood species that we have data for. What we saw was that every year, a greater proportion of species was collapsed to low catches, 10% or less of what we used to catch. Trawlers, longliners are incredibly effective at catching fish in huge numbers, but also they're very unselective. This is like going to the Serengeti to harvest, say, wildebeest, and dragging huge nets across the landscape, sweeping up the wildebeest along with the rhinos, the giraffes, the lions, the gazelles, everything, then throwing everything out dead and just keeping the wildebeest. What we asked was, if that trend would continue, when would we end up without any seafood species at all? And the answer was by the middle of the century. Every year we see more species threatened with extinction, more stocks collapsing. The thing about this is this has an end to it. At one point we will run out if this trend continues.
The trend of collapse has been happening everywhere, including in the US. 8 years ago, red snapper in the Gulf of Mexico was down by 97%. But in 2007, things changed.
Look at all those fish. Everything above this little red line is fish. There's going to be a lot more in a minute here.
Buddy Guindone is a third-generation fisherman based out of Galveston, Texas, who a few years ago was left thinking that a family tradition of fishing red snapper would end with him.
Break it down for me. How depleted were the fish stocks?
I can tell you this. I was looking for other things for my children to do because I thought it was over. When they decided to change the management system, we got a vote. And I was one of the people that voted against it. Every time the government changes the regulations, we were losing. Luckily, there was people smarter than me that really looked into it and said, this is going to be a good thing.
That Good Thing is a catch share program that began in 2007. It starts with scientists assessing the health of fishery populations. Based on that data, they then determine what percentage of stocks must be protected so that fish populations can replenish and thrive. The remainder, or the total annual catch, is then divided up amongst the fishing community via shares, like a stock market. Over time, as the fishery grows healthier, those shares appreciate.
When they do stock assessments and they see more fish in the water, they raise the total allowable catch. And when they increase the quotas, the numbers of fish you can harvest goes up. A good day 10 years ago was 500 pounds. Now we catch 10,000 in a day.
To understand why this system isn't being implemented around the globe, we spoke to Amanda Leyland, Oceans Director of the Environmental Defence Fund, who initiated the programme here in Galveston. What have been the challenges in implementing that kind of program?
The biggest problems are in these coastal nearshore fisheries that have limited governance. They don't have a lot of rules. They don't have a lot of science. There's not really a plan to help manage the fisheries successfully over the long term. And it's in these communities, in places like Tanzania, that need it the most.
So we may have found some of the solutions to fix our fish markets here. But just off the Mozambique Channel, more and more fishermen are resorting to drastically destructive fishing practices just to survive. Blast fishing uses explosives to kill schools of fish in a matter of seconds. And although it is illegal in Tanzania, 5 minutes off the coast of Dar es Salaam, giant blasts are going off in plain sight every day. We managed to persuade this group of blast fishermen to show us how it's done.
They're just mixing up industrial fertilizer with petrol, and this guy's just making the fuse. How did you lose your fingers?
Because of
You're kind of scaring me.
Yeah.
This guy says that he's found a shoal of fish here, so he's about to throw his bomb. You can see all this murky brown water at the surface. It's just bits of coral down here. What do you got? This handful of fish is everything that they've got after blasting about 10-meter diameter of coral reef.
Coral reefs are one of the key starting points for life in the ocean. With each explosion, thousands of years of ecosystem are reduced to rubble. We went down with local conservationist Jason Rubens to view the devastation.
There's no way of telling how long ago that was blasted because those rubble patches will stay like that for a long time. It takes a minimum of 10 to 20 years for corals to get established, to start seeing some of the structure and give you the diversity of all the other bigger fish. Now there's no space for any of that.
As we decimate our ocean's population, our own population is skyrocketing, which puts us at a tipping point. We know a potential solution, but as a result of poverty and a complete lack of oversight, we're allowing one of our most fundamental sources of food to disappear before our eyes.
3 billion people rely on fish as an important source of protein. New research shows that we can actually have more fish in the water, more food on the plate, and more prosperous communities. And at a global scale, it's possible that we could double the amount of fish in the water. We have a choice, and our choice is to get fishing right or not. And if we don't, we've got a serious starvation crisis on our hands.